Hello and welcome to Chord Melody on Guitar, Part 2. In our previous video, we discussed the C sixth chord and the C sixth diminished scale. And as we discovered, when we harmonized the C sixth diminished scale, we ended up with a series of C sixth, B diminished, C sixth, B diminished chords that sequence right throughout the whole scale. So in this session, we're going to concentrate on the diminished chord. And diminished chords are truly amazing because of the harmonic palette surrounding them. So without any further ado, let's take a closer look at the diminished chord and we'll discover how it can help us create a more fluent chord melody style on the guitar. And just to clarify things, in this session, when I'm referring to the diminished chord, I'm speaking about the 4-note diminished 7th chord. Now I'm going to start with the B diminished 7th chord, and I'm going to use this chord to demonstrate 3 amazing features that belong to all diminished 7th chords. Feature number 1. Any note in the diminished chord can be the key note. So if I look at the notes under my fingers in the B diminished 7th chord, if I start on the 1st string, I have G sharp, or it could also be called A flat. On the 2nd string I have D. The 3rd string there's a B under my fingers, and on the 4th string there's an F. So this chord really could have 5 different names because of the fact that we have an enharmonic, that is a G sharp and an A flat, on the 1st string. The term enharmonic refers to 2 notes that sound the same but can be notated differently. In this instance, G sharp or A flat, but they sound the same. And the second feature of diminished 7th chords is because of the fact that these chords can be named, or 4 different pitched notes, that this chord is repeated every 3 frets. And how that works is, if we take the number 4, being the number of different pitched notes under our fingers in a diminished 7th chord, and if we divide that number into the chromatic scale, which is the 12 notes that we have to work with, we get 3. And therefore, when you move this shape up or down the fingerboard at a distance of 3 frets, the notes under our fingers will remain exactly the same, however they'll be in a different position under our fingers, what we call a different inversion of the same chord. This is how it would look on the guitar. So if I move the original B diminished, and I'm naming that off the 3rd string, the note B there, if I move it up 3 frets, I'll find the key note B is now on the 1st string at the 7th fret. Moving it up another 3 frets, the note B now has moved down to string 4. Moving it another 3 frets higher, and now our B note is on the 2nd string. Now many of you listening to this session will already be aware of these 2 features of the diminished 7th chord. However, not too many guitar players are aware of this 3rd feature. And the 3rd feature of our diminished 7th chord is that if you lower any note of the diminished 7th chord, you will get a dominant 7th chord. Let's take a closer look. Back to our B diminished 7th chord, lower the A flat on the 1st string back to a G, and there's our G dominant 7th chord. Back to the B diminished shape again, lower the D on the 2nd string, and we have a D flat dominant 7th chord. Again, back to the original B diminished 7th shape, lower the B on the 3rd string this time, and we have a B flat dominant 7th chord. Once more, back to the B diminished 7th shape, this time lowering the F on the 4th string, back 1 semitone, and we end up with an E dominant 7th chord. This feature of the diminished 7th chord opens up a whole new world of harmonic possibilities on the guitar fingerboard, and we'll be covering all those in future sessions. But for today, what I want to focus on is the relationship between a G7th chord and a C chord, what we call a perfect cadence. And if we look at the notes in a G7th chord, G, B, D, F, and have a look by comparison with the notes in a B diminished chord, B, D, F, A flat, it could be said that the B diminished can function as a G7 flat 9 chord. Another way of thinking about this is that it could be said that a dominant 7th chord has a diminished chord built on its third. The third note of a G dominant 7th chord is the note B. And one of the possibilities we're considering at the moment is that a B diminished 7th chord could also function as a G7 flat 9 chord. Okay, time to put all this theory together and take it over to the guitar fingerboard. I've put together several practice tracks. The first track is a series of C6 chords being connected together with our B diminished 7th chord. Let's do that together. We'll play it up and down the guitar fingerboard 4 times. C6, B diminished, connecting to the next C6, then the next B diminished, and so on. In this next practice track, the guitar will play the exact same shapes, C6, B diminished, C6, B diminished. However, there'll be a bass guitar playing a C note as a root note over your C6 chord. However, as you play the B diminished 7th chord, the bass will play a G note. The combination of the guitar and bass together will give the effect of a G7 flat 9 chord. So as you're playing up the guitar fingerboard playing C6 to B diminished, in tandem with the bass, we will get the result of a C6 chord going to a G7 flat 9. The guitar is playing exact same shapes as the previous track, only the effect will be different. Here we go. And here's one more track for you to practice with. This time only the bass guitar, playing the C and G bass note. So you can practice hearing your own guitar sound playing C6 to B diminished, and the effect between the guitar and the bass of being a C6 to a G7 flat 9. Okay, that's it for this session. I hope you've got something out of it, and I look forward to catching up with you next time. Bye for now.